How you doing? Welcome to the New Jersey Tech Meetup. I'm glad everyone's so enthusiastic tonight. Thanks for coming. So if you're tweeting along, use @NJTech or hashtag NJTech and we'll check out what you're doing and send it around. We retweet a lot of stuff. So welcome to the NJTech Meetup. My name is Aaron Price. This is our 38th event. I started this group because I'm an entrepreneur myself and wanted to surround myself with other like-minded, generally not sane individuals who are working on startups to figure out and talk through some of the problems that we were facing. And we've done this every month for the last 3 years, and tonight's our 38th, so welcome and thanks for coming. The goal is to spark connections and inspire ideas, hence the networking prior to sitting in this room. That's the connections part, and the remainder of the evening is primarily around inspiring new ideas. So a little bit about the group. We surpassed 3,000 members last week. Thanks, that's awesome. I was pretty pumped about that metric. That's a chart of our actual member growth. We're New Jersey's largest technology community, and if you're curious, if this is your first time here, if you're curious about how the events work, this is our main event, and then occasionally throughout the months we'll do workshops dedicated to specific topics. So we'll have a legal topic or an accounting topic, but generally when it's NJ Tech Meetup and a number, that's referring to this main event. And while Meetup is a good way to RSVP, LinkedIn we have a LinkedIn group to actually connect with your professional peers and connections. So check us out on LinkedIn to connect with many other members of the group. We do have. I'm curious, who is here for the first time tonight? Wow, half or so it looks like. Cool, welcome. And how many people identify primarily as entrepreneurs? And how many is primarily as software engineers? Nice. How many are full-time working on their own startups? Like that. Who's here from the press? I know we've got some press here tonight, a few. Nice. NJ Biz and NJ Tech Weekly. Investors, any people who are primarily investors? Or maybe not primarily investors, but active angel investors or otherwise. I saw Charlie here somewhere as being shy, but that's all right. I know there are a few others, so meet your neighbors and maybe they'll write you a check. So we do have a few rules, and I really appreciate everyone respecting the rules. It's what keeps the rooms full and makes it worth everyone's time. So the first rule is not to be a no-show. And the way that works is as you get here, you check in. And if you haven't checked in, I'm not sure, the list is probably still outside. Please make sure you do that. If you don't, we send out a public no-show list of shame list after every event. And I'm really proud to report that Meetup has featured us as having among the lowest no-show rates, generally under 3%. So it keeps the room full. It makes sure there's always a wait list for every single one of the events, so it makes sure that your peers get in. So please, if you can't make an event, update your RSVP to let somebody else in. It seems to work out really well. More important than anything you'll hear in the room tonight, make sure you meet your neighbors. Generally, everyone is very friendly. Hopefully you're not sitting next to the prick in the room, but people are pretty nice. Everyone's wondering, is that me? And I really appreciate if you leave feedback. It's a great way for us to figure out the other kinds of events that you'd like us to put on, speakers you'd like us to see. If you're interested in hearing anyone at all, no matter how unattainable you think they may be, generally we're pretty good at getting the speakers to show up. So let me know who you'd like to hear or topics you'd like covered, and we'll make it happen. All things related to New Jersey Tech Meetup show up at njtech.me. That's our website. We kind of aggregate all activity from LinkedIn and Meetup and Facebook and Twitter and those sorts of things and put a big stream there so you can check out upcoming events. We've been featured in a bunch of local and some national press, which I really attribute to to you guys. So I really appreciate that. Besides being a cool vanity thing to show on the screen, it actually is kind of important for our group because the stronger voice that we have as a community, the more things we can get done, like legislation and funding opportunities in our favor. So if you happen to be connected to press, please send them my way. It actually makes a big difference in getting us a seat at the table when they're making the rules that affect our businesses. So the night's made possible by several sponsors, so we're going to quickly give them a chance to introduce themselves. And before they do, I'll just say that I vet everyone on this list. And the point is to surround the group with companies that help you succeed so that you don't have to waste your time looking for service providers. You can know that these are companies that have already been vetted, that are startup friendly, that have founder friendly pricing or startup friendly pricing. And if you do not experience that, then please let me know because they're really not welcome to support the group. So the first of those is Soren Rand, who's generally here, but I didn't see anyone. Is someone from Soren Rand here tonight? No. So Soren Rand is a law firm that supports technology companies. They were the startup I never quite remember the title, but they were Law Firm of the Year for Technology Growth Companies last year. Very founder-friendly. Check them out. Weiser Mazar, I don't think is here tonight, a strategic and a strategic advisory firm as well as tax and accounting services. And a lot of these guys, even if you don't need their services directly, are interested to talk with you to help you as your company grows. They'll make introductions into their network, so it's a good idea to be in touch with these guys. TriNet, is Joe here tonight? I didn't see Joe. So TriNet's outsourced HR services, so you can focus again on building your company and not on the HR, payment, and PEO type services. I know that .com Weavers is here tonight, so where's Amit? He put a lot of papers in front of you, so why don't you quickly say hello to the group?
Hi guys, thanks Aaron for the intro. We are right here in Paramus. We are a web development company specializing in e-commerce and web apps. So feel free to talk to us, give us an email, and we will be more than happy to consult with you. Thanks.
Again, startup-friendly packages for web applications, e-commerce, etc. Amit and I talked at length about things that would make sense for this group, so we tried to tailor some packages that would work. If they don't, let us know, and we'll figure something else that will. Of course, we want to thank Stevens for hosting us here. They've been doing it for the last 3+ years, and always appreciate the space. Is Jack from Ambrose here tonight? I don't think he is either. So Ambrose is also an outsourced HR service for employee services and HR benefits. Morgan Lewis, I think I saw. No. Morgan Lewis is, again, a startup-friendly law firm, legal services for startups. I know that iFridge isn't here, but iFridge works with companies on strategy and positioning. They actually helped coach the startups that are presenting tonight on their messaging. So hopefully that'll be reflected in the pitches that you hear tonight. Phone.com, I know had some representation because they all registered. So you guys want to mention something about Phone?
Hey guys, we're with Phone.com, and we are a hosted phone service provider. Everyone at NJ Tech gets 1 year of free phone service, so your cell phone is getting way too many work calls and not enough personal calls, and you need to separate it. It's a good way to start. These little cards has a link on it. You can get your phone lines free there. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. It's a hosted phone service that you can sound like a real company with your own dedicated number that has lots of mailboxes that go to lots of places. And,
Desk phones, soft phones, mobile phones.
Software phones. Any phone-related service you could think of, they have. It's kind of awesome. And they're New Jersey-based, which is always nice. Eisner Amper, there we go. Thank you very much. And a new sponsor tonight is Relax Digital. They're actually doing the video back in the corner, so you can say hi if you want. And Dennis, if you want to quickly tell people what Relax is about.
We're just trying to make it affordable for people to get their information digitalized. Not just a video, but digital for the most part. You've got a Kickstarter, if you want to do some type of video, make it affordable. Just info at Relax Digital, get it flow.
Thank you. Board Studios makes 30 to 60-second illustrated videos, great for landing pages and product informational videos. Inflection Interactive is a local digital marketing agency that I highly recommend if you're looking for outsourced marketing needs. And lastly, DFJ Gotham Ventures is an early stage venture capital firm in New York. I'm actually their entrepreneur at large. If you think you have a company that's worthy of venture capital or needs venture capital, which most aren't, but if you think you have one, then I'm happy to talk to you to see if it's something that's a good fit for DFJ. So that said, I want to turn the mic over to the audience a bit. This is an opportunity for you if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a question, if you have a need, if you're looking to hire someone, if you need office space, if you need hosting something, anything at all. This is a chance for you to stand up, 10 seconds, ask the audience for help, and people generally try to connect later. So we'll start right here.
Hi, I'm Schiff, and I have a radio show, and I'm looking for guests for the fall to help support and broadcast the news.
Any particular kind of businesses?
Any
Any kind of businesses on the radio.
interview show to help support entrepreneurs.
Great. In the way back. Yep. For free or for paid?
Yeah, for some reasons.
For barter, for free, firstborn, whatever. All right. Yep.
Hi, I'm Christy, and I'm looking for someone who's very proficient in Adobe Suite, particularly Photoshop. I have built a website, and I've got my pages organized, and I need to literally stand over someone's shoulder, so you have to have that kind of temperament to deal with that, and say, please put this here, and please put this there, you know? And that's what I need. So I've got all my coding organized, so when the back end's all built, but this is the one little piece I'm missing, so you can see me afterwards, and that's it. Thank you.
Somebody over here. Yep.
Hi, my name is Roy Frank, and I'm from the Freelancers School, which is the newest insurance company in New Jersey that was formed as a result of Obamacare. So basically, I'm here to let people know that, hey, come October 1st, there's an opportunity to go on the marketplace, get your insurance, and if you don't get your insurance, you get penalty. It's real, it's happening, it's returning back. So if you guys need any information that relates to the Obamacare Act, exchange or type marketplace in October 1st, any questions, let me know.
Yep.
Hi guys, my name is Rich. I need help with finding new friends that are clients. I can help with web and mobile development. And you should know about Punky, which is a Hoboken-based web and mobile development company. Two partners over there, Eric and Bert. And we're here to help you get your project from user stories and wireframes all the way to getting you out into the Android store, iOS store, anything you want. We're really, really good.
Well, I appreciate you following the format. It's actually choose one. It's okay. You're the only person to follow the format. Yep.
This is for anyone who needs a professional website, doesn't have a lot of money to spend on it. We have a new package available. It's $99 a month. We'll build a custom website for you. And if you want to talk about it, it's Word, 320 in line.
They're really good too.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Mark Gavigan with BothSider.com, and I am desperately looking for feedback at BothSider.com. Be brutal. Thank you.
That is how it's done. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Robin Bhattacharya. I started called Components, which is an automotive information and social networking website. And I'm actually looking for content providers, anyone that can provide any kind of automotive content, really, reviews, automotive lifestyles, hardware coverage, that kind of thing. Let me know if you can find me after this, or you can email info@components.com.
Carponents. Yep. Two more, so get aggressive with those hands.
I'm with flexandfit.com. It's a fitness startup. I started doing the business development myself now, so I'm looking for people who are in the fitness industry and want to sort of help me with leads or lists of gyms and personal trainers. If anybody's interested, just talk to me. I can help with marketing. Thanks.
Flexandfit.com, right?
Yes.
Cool. Yep. Tom?
Yeah, hi, not an entrepreneur. My name's Tom Zanke, technology reporter at JBiz, business journal in Somerset. And we're looking for story ideas. We're always looking for development companies to profile. So basically, if you have an interesting story to tell, you have creative ideas. I'd love to talk to you.
Last one, yep.
I'm Jerome with Power to Switch. So you should know about Power to Switch. It's the easiest and simplest way to shop for your electricity.
Power to what?
Power to Switch.
TO or the number 2?
Number 2.
The number
Just
2.
launched in New York and New Jersey. It's, they handle the switch for you, and it's like a concierge service to help you find the cheapest rates.
All right. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Jeff, I don't think I saw Jeff come in. Are you here, Jeff? No. So if you have an announcement you want to go out on our newsletter, which we're a little bit behind in, then find Jeff, who's not here right now because I think he's hungover, but will be here later. Or actually submit it to njtech.me/submitnews. So the best thing to do is submit it there first and then follow up with Jeff, but we'll make brief company announcements, hires, anything appropriate for the group that's not a blatant advertisement. We helped open a co-working space a year and a half ago in Hoboken called Mission 50. There's actually now a few in Hudson County. There's one called Indie Grove in Jersey City, which is also pretty awesome. If you're not familiar with this kind of environment, I highly recommend it. It's a great way not to just have a place to work, but also to get really great mind share with the people next to you. So highly recommend it. In this, at Mission 50, there's dedicated offices, common space, a lounge area. It's very cool. So the format for the rest of the night is we have 3 startups that each have 5 minutes to present, and then followed by 5-minute Q&A. Then our feature speaker, Lewis, and then I've got some closing remarks, and we'll go to Drinks at Trinity. And they're actually competing tonight for this recycled and rebranded trophy. So I'm sure they appreciate if you'll vote for them at the end of the night. And with that, we will get started with Simon and IBE. Come on, let's hear it for Simon.
Okay, it's bottom one shuffle.
What's that?
Bottom one shuffle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Try to stay over there.
Thank you. Given the audience here tonight, I'm sure that many people run their own business. I'm sure many of those businesses that you run are people businesses. People businesses. Don't you love them? The assets are expensive, managing egos is a pain, and you tread a thin line between profit and loss every month. When you get more than a handful of people working for you, Excel and email doesn't cut it anymore. So, what do? Every day, we open a myriad of different apps. We push data between these apps. We try and get them to play nice with each other when they're specifically designed not to. All to try and keep our head above water. Worse than that, we try and do it on multiple different platforms. These point solutions that we've invested in to make our life easier have become data silos. They're hiding the real information of the business, and they're costing us a lot of time and effort and money to reconcile data and to actually correct errors that shouldn't have been there in the first place. You run one business. Why don't you run one piece of software? Hi, my name's Simon Hopkins, and I'm one of the co-founders of IBE.net. I've known my other founders for the best part of the last 20 years. When Richard told me his vision for IBE a couple of years ago, I think I laughed. Hey, just what the world needs, another enterprise software company. But this crazy idea kind of took root. And the truth is that for the small businesses, they have exactly the same business problems as the Fortune 500. Except for them, the software that's available is either overly simplistic, lacks industry functionality, or is simply too expensive. So we came up with IBE.net. IBE.net is designed on using the latest technology from the ground up to provide unprecedented functionality and flexibility on a cloud base. Imagine that we've built a Lego platform where you can define very specific functionality so that any company operating in any industry anywhere in the world can run its own integrated business processes on one common shared code base. We think that's a big deal, and we call it an integrated business environment. So, where are we starting? Well, we're starting with those people businesses because we know them. There are 35,000 here in the United States. And we're going to expand one piece of functionality, one market, one geography at a time, until we achieve our goal, which of course is global domination. So, the package that we released in May. Key to this is integration. So not surprisingly, we've put an inbox front and center. We've also put a message board, which we call the buzz board, where alerts and notifications and approvals are pushed in real time. We also understand the importance of information. So we've created an analytics package where people can define their own dashboards and analyze their own key business metrics, such as project profitability. We've introduced a social component as well, so that Facebook-like comments can be posted against any business object and published to the appropriate audience. Now, 2013 is the year where more mobile devices will appear on the planet than human beings. So we thought it is appropriate that we take a mobile-first approach to the key users of the system. Messages are pushed to users, and data can be entered very easily, any time of the day or night from anywhere. We've made expenses easy as well. We've linked to credit cards and banks. We've used the GPS functionality in order to calculate business mileage. And we've used the camera to capture and process receipts. I've worked with a number of CFOs in my career. Each one of them has sleepless nights because consultants do not enter their time or expenses. We hope our package will give more sleepless nights to more CFOs. Less sleepless nights. So now we've got to sell it. Our first 2 channels are up and running, and we're talking to resellers and partners right now. We're developing a community, and we're getting some good press. We aim to have 2,000 users and 50 companies on our system by the end of the year. So, by connecting the front of the business to the back of the business, we've simplified businesses for our clients. But the big deal is that we're allowing the little guy to gain a real-time insight onto his business without the need to spend traditional dollars on enterprise licenses. We've got a great team. We've got a huge market opportunity. We have a revolutionary product, and we're disruptively priced. We're IB, and we're swinging for the fence. Thank you for your time. Check us out online. Check us out in the App Store, or talk to me afterwards. Thank you. Questions? Hi.
Hi. At what number of employees does it start to make sense to go with a product such as yours?
Excellent question, excellent question. Our pricing tier, so we're giving it away free if you're 2 or 3 people. Less than 10 people, we've got a package because it doesn't, go use it and make sense. Really, it starts to make sense over 10 people. I run consultancy businesses, and below that you can just about get by, but over 10 people, 10 to 199 is really our sweet spot. Hi, at the back.
So other than you want a world domination, if people hit 199, 200, do you see a practical limit where your product doesn't make sense at a certain size?
I don't think so. If you look at the Gartner Group and they look at sort of who's really succeeding in the cloud-based ERP space, there's only one name, that's NetSuite. NetSuite is written on technology which is at least 10 years old. So as a technology grows, I see us, it's possible that we could get more than that, but I think the sweet spot is running the entire end-to-end business at that size of organization. Hi.
I don't think, you always have a constraint of time, so you were not really able to go through the entire product. But it sounds to me like, I know from the top of my head, at least 5 companies that are doing the same thing, like Free Agent, a couple of them actually work together. So I'm curious what sets your company apart from all these, accounting aggregators that I know of.
That's a great question. One of our informal advisors is the ex-CMO of NetSuite. And NetSuite is busily rewriting their product at the moment to actually allow it to become global. Zendesk, if you're familiar with Zendesk, they just raised $60 million earlier this year. And they said, that's great. We can now use that $60 million to rewrite our product to do what it should have done in the first place. We've taken the approach that we've actually believed that we've written it correctly from the start so we can scale. And we believe we're far more flexible than the competition. So instead of providing a one-size-fits-all SaaS product, which a lot of these guys do, we've provided almost an environment where they can configure their own processes to fit their organizations exactly. So they can change the screens, they can change the data model, and we're giving them an environment where they can write their own code as well. So our flexibility is greatly superior to some of the other competitors. But you're right, it's a competitive space. Yeah.
So a lot of times with enterprise suites like this, trying to be great at such a diverse set of functionality is a big challenge. Like you mentioned Zendesk, which is great at really one thing,
Yeah.
customer service. So how do you guys balance, being great across such a diverse set of products?
That's a great question, thanks. We will not be great. We will not be the single greatest product in any one of those categories. But if we're successful, we'll be the second or third greatest across a very wide spectrum of categories. And that's what we're aiming to achieve.
So can I follow up?
Yep.
So why wouldn't I want to use the best product in those categories separately?
Because you've got to knit them together. You've got to talk together. And I was sitting down with someone the other day, and they said, well, there's just APIs to do that. Well, there are APIs to do that. But if I'm setting up my projects in Basecamp over here, and you're accounting for them in QuickBooks over there, which is the master, which is the slave? You change one, I've got to change one. And then suddenly, a very simple API to get projects from here to there becomes a very complicated API, as you've got to keep track of all of the maneuvers. And as you start to add different systems, those linkages go up exponentially. It's not a linear relationship. So it all goes back to integration and being the best integrated product rather than the best single expenses capture or time management system. Anyone?
So it's historically, I mean, it's very tough to sell into small and mid-sized businesses. Is this something that you're selling as the cost of the product will be outweighed by the increased efficiency of the business, or is this an added cost that they're going to have to take on above and beyond what they're already paying for the other programs?
It depends what they're doing at the moment. For example, we have a client in downtown Manhattan. They're using Autotask at the moment, and they're paying tens of thousands of dollars a year for Autotask. We can provide them with the equivalent functionality and enhance that, so we have a mobile solution, we have customer portals and so on that they don't have at the moment at a significantly lower price point than they're currently paying. They wouldn't, if we were more, they wouldn't change to us, but the price point is actually key at selling to the middle market. You're absolutely right. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Next up, Mike, Geekrowd. Or Geekrowd, whoever Geekrowd is, come on up. Sorry, I've got your name wrong every time I've called you, but let's welcome up Geekrowd. Come on.
Yep, Mike Bailey.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Mike Bailey, the founder of Geekrowd. We're a social company. We believe social is better when you're around people that have the same interests as you. But first, let's go over a few things that we are not. We are not a company that is built on the backbone of Facebook or Twitter. We are not 30-year-olds in our basements playing World of Warcraft. We are not the next Instagram, but you could build it using us. This thing is like... Geekrowd is a company focusing on complex social networking problems. Crowd.io is the heart of our company, which is a social platform as a service that allows developers and communities to build social networks on any platform. So what's wrong with social today? It's great, right? This picture sums it up for us. Social networks, large social networks, are moving so fast that they're not able to slow down and fix some of the problems that are happening with them. Just look at how many teens are leaving Facebook in hopes to find something better and more engaging. The real problem with social networks is that they're based on linear relationships with people and not the things that we're interested in. But relationships are not linear, and they're certainly not weighted the same. This creates a lot of noise but no signal when I just want to talk to people that have the similar interests as me. Let me give you an example of this. So I'm a Mazda RX-8 enthusiast. I'm on these communities on a daily basis interacting with people, but social isn't the place where I do this. Facebook tries to do this, but it normally is just a stream of pictures and memes with no context around that content. Twitter doesn't even really try to do this at all, but they do have search. Pinterest, well, they're good at organization, but where's the conversation? So if I'm really into something, I go to a place like this. This is a forum with about 4 million posts, 100,000 active users, and about 100 subforums. How the hell am I supposed to digest that? There's no way to do it on a daily basis. We are going to solve this problem by allowing communities to curate content based on their interests. We will make this simple by providing the back-end platform allowing the creation of autonomous social networks on any device using client libraries and open source apps. All of our technology will allow you to build the next Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. It can extend your current community, giving them a more social experience, or you can even spin up a private social network for your guys' weekend in Vegas. Maybe if these guys used an app, they wouldn't have lost Doug. 27% of our time on the internet is spent on social networking sites, and the developer community is booming around this. Parse has over 100,000 apps, paid apps under their wings. There's millions of forum software installed out there. Twitter has 1 million apps by itself. And on top of that, social advertising spending is said to grow to $11 billion by 2017. Whether it's an out-of-the-box social network, an existing social network, or a backend as a service, there's a lot going on around us in the world of social. All we can be sure of is social is growing at an exponential rate, and Geekrowd's in the position to connect millions of people, and through those interactions, we'll be able to provide a service to help our customers stay ahead of the game with their communities. We are a tiered subscription-based model that has everything from a free tier to enterprise-level agreements for our bigger clients, and we also have an ad rev share model like Google AdSense that will allow these developers and communities to make money also off of their communities. Although we're a small team right now, we're tapping into developers all over the world to build client libraries and open source apps that will help us to continue to grow. We're looking to raise $400,000 to $800,000 on a 12 to 18 month runway is the broad overview of what we're looking for. And in about 2 weeks, we're actually moving our company to Silicon Mountain, which is Boulder, Colorado, so we can be closer to some people that we look to have invest with us. Again, we're Geekrowd, and our platform is crowd.io. This is all our contact information. You can find some of our open source on github.com/crowd. And if you're a developer and want a beta test, go to crowd.io and sign up for a beta key, and you can start building your own social network. Thank you. Questions?
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in approaching prospective users and how they responded to what you were putting forth?
Prospective users in the form of developers or the end customers users? So
I meant the end customers, but either one.
Yeah, so I think really what we're trying to do is grab the attention of those communities that already exist that are really kind of antiquated. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of them out there. So really getting integrations into and building modules on top of those platforms that already exist to just integrate more social cues, the whole relationship sharing aspect of what they're already kind of doing but just not doing a good job at.
Sure, if I may, did you ever speak with them and see how they responded to what you were putting forth?
Yeah, so we're actually working with a couple larger forums to actually integrate our product into theirs to be able to take what's getting ingested into their community and making that digestible. So, you know, when I'm mobile, I'm actually, you know, just trying to flip through things as fast as I can. I don't have time to go to a forum and try to digest that. So being able to present that information in a way that you can just easily, you know, scroll through that information, I think that's the big seller for them, because the current forum software out there just doesn't have anything like that.
I noticed in your competitive set you didn't mention Google+, which also hinges on communities, so I was just curious how you differentiate from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that they're trying to do on communities, but I think the lack of interactions with being able to tie those into communities that already exist, I think that's where they're kind of failing. So there's lots of communities out there that have nothing to do with social, or they have something on Google Plus or Facebook, but you can't monetize off that as a community leader. You know, there's no way for those people to monetize because Facebook and Google are keeping that revenue themselves, you know.
Is the purpose of your company to fragment social media?
No, it's not really. So on the back end, there's a lot of, this is the 5-minute presentation. So on the back end, there's a lot of special sauce to be able to group those communities together. So say you're on one community and be able to find people that have the same interests as you in other communities as well, and be able to bubble that information up to you, or be able to have the APIs for those developers to do that.
Okay, so, sorry, did you mention Facebook, Twitter as your competitor, or
So Facebook and Twitter are our users' competitors, right? That's where they're going to be competing. You know, those are where they're going to be competing. So those aren't necessarily direct competitors because our market is for developers. But those developers and those communities, their direct competitors are obviously going to be all these social networks. So you could come onto our social network and build Instagram really easily. That would in turn be, you know, kind of their competitors, but in order for us to stay ahead of those competitors, we have to understand them.
How do you provide for every type of niche that's out there? For example, a very music-heavy social network, you know, such as SoundCloud, Turntable, has, you know, very music-oriented, audiophile-oriented user interfaces where a photography-type social network might be something geared toward that. Automotive has more geared toward that. How do you make it so that everyone can create their own niche and have the right type of features that actually work for their niche?
Yep, so we went through all the social networks that are, probably not all of them, but all the major ones that are out there, and we kind of took what they're doing, and they're all really doing very similar things. It's just with a different media type. So our system allows for video, photos, text, music, all those things to be utilized. So you can upload a video, you can upload sounds. It's just the way that you present that on the front end, right? That's really what's different with any of these social networks. But at the end of the day, they're about connecting people together and allowing content to flow, you know, through that network.
So I do go connect Instagram on your platform at page $6.99. How do I go to one?
So we're across 3 data centers right now. We have an East Coast, a West Coast, and then also in Amsterdam. Our system was built for scale, so that's kind of like, that's my background.
What is your company?
What's that?
You don't have enough company, you don't have enough clients.
So we actually have stuff that's hitting our network at a really large scale that we're doing testing with right now. So we have kind of rogue machines that's all they're doing is hammering our network, entering content as if it would be entered from those users. So it's a learning system. It's a automated testing system that's automatically. Oh, financially blowing us?
Basically running you out of cash. You got to pay for all that.
Yeah, so really the back-end services are at a really low cost. It's all cloud-based, so we can spin up on the fly. So we're in the black right now. The platform's developed, and so we're in a position to start making money. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot. Good
Thank
job.
you.
All right, and the last one up is Jeremy from Sproute.
Cool, so thank you for having me. My name is Jeremy Hamill. I'm one of the founders at Sproute. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about travel. So it's easy enough to book your flight or your hotel, but where do you go for everything else at your destination? From local transportation to tours to tickets to local services to food to local deals, really everything once you've arrived. The problem is there's a huge number of resources for travelers at their destination, but many travelers don't know where to find them, or in many cases even that they exist. Our solution is to connect travelers with everything that they need at their destination through one simple application. We organize the services by function, so they're easy to find, and we integrate with all of our partners. Some of these have APIs, some of them we've partnered with on a one-off basis, so the traveler can book anything without ever having to leave our application. This, by the way, what you're looking at is a previous version. It's more of a mock-up, and I'll get to why it's an early version of it. Excuse me, sorry. These are out of order from what once we organize everything, put them into a simple package for the traveler at the destination. Of course, the big problem in travel is not product itself, but distribution. So it's a very crowded space, and it's difficult for any brand, especially a startup with limited capital and no existing scale or distribution, to get any timeshare or consumer mind share. So what we're doing is entering the market from a creative perspective. And what we've decided is to focus specifically on distribution, and we think that everything else will follow. So to that end, what we did was look for a smaller problem that we could leverage. And what we found was that this is probably something that many of you have experienced. When you go to a hotel, you'll log onto the Wi-Fi network and you'll almost always land on the hotel's website. The function of that website is to get you to go to the hotel. If you're logging onto the Wi-Fi network, you're already there, and it's pointless for you to land on the website. So what we've done is approached hotels with the idea of essentially turning their website into a web app and enabling them to connect their guests with everything that they need at their destination. So now if you're a guest at the hotel, from the time you make your reservation throughout the stay, regardless of where you are, you can do anything you need to do through one simple application via your hotel. It's completely white labeled. Of course, if you're on the property itself and you log into the Wi-Fi, you'll land on our application. Our business model is very straightforward. We charge hotels $5 per room per month. Almost all of the integrations that we have are revenue generating. There are others that are purely informational, but most of them are revenue generating, which we split with the hotels. We never actually charge the hotels. Rather, we take $5 per room per month off the top and split the rest 50-50. And that's one of the selling points. The market is obviously huge. We see the hotel market and the way we are entering it as the way we're entering the market. But this product can be deployed on sites like Airbnb, through airlines, intercity buses, and ultimately we intend to go direct to consumer. The core idea is that it's a destination booking engine. So everything you need at your destination under one roof. So in terms of the team, my background is in travel and transportation. I've managed transportation at the Winter Olympics, the Super Bowl, and the Masters tournament. I also have I spent time as an executive recruiter. I met my partner Dan about 5 months ago, and we hit it off immediately. Dan's a strong back-end developer with experience on Wall Street, as well as an early developer at Invite Media. Bobby is Dan's former roommate and our front-end developer. He's also a developer at bluefly.com. So in terms of our traction, we started working on this after pivoting from another project where actually Sproute is going to not be the name very soon, unfortunately. This is poor timing, but we started working on this in early June. By late June, we had a small family and friend-sized investment. Earlier this month, our prototype was built, and by the middle of the month, this says 7 of 8 hotels. As of today, it's 10 of 11 hotels that we've approached have signed letters of intent to use the product. It seems like we've hit a problem with them in terms of them. They've lost revenue because guests generally don't use the in-room phone and generally don't pay for things on the TV, and it's nearly impossible to charge for the internet. So they've lost revenue, and we are giving them a way to generate revenue and add value for their guests. We're also integrated with property management systems, so many of the guests we're integrating with property management systems, so guests can actually make a booking on our application and charge it to their room. So we intend to be operating our beta in about 2 weeks. We have 5 hotels on board for that, and we'll be hopefully closing our seed round in early October. Once we close the seed round from there, we'll continue to pre-sell the product the same way we have with the letters to get the letters of intent signed, with the goal of scaling New York City very soon thereafter, within a few months. Of course, we're revenue generating, so the goal is within about 12 months after closing the seed round to be in a position to grow organically or be in a strong position to raise growth capital. In terms of our competition, Hotel Cloud and StayXO are very early stage companies. I'm not even 100% sure StayXO has launched yet. There's not a lot of information about them. Hotel Cloud is Paris-based, very early stage as well. Guestfolio has some overlap, but their core product is very different. We're raising a seed round of $800,000. It'll go towards all the normal things. Thank you. Yeah.
Clarify that you said it's $5 per room and then you share with the hotel. Split
Yeah.
the revenues generated from engaging in the services.
Yeah. So most of the integrations we're getting a commission from any bookings. So we split that commission with the hotel 50-50. We charge them $5 per room per month, but we simply take the first $5 per room per month in booking revenue. If the hotel doesn't do $5 per room per month, we don't charge them the difference. So when we've approached hotels, we basically told them in a worst case scenario, nothing happens. In a best case, in every other scenario, we're sending you a check at the end of every month. Else? Yeah.
Besides giving up that splash page.
Yeah. So that it's really lightweight, which is actually a selling point that we found out later because we didn't intend it to be. We actually went with a more heavyweight solution and started integrating with the property management systems before talking to the hotels, which was probably a rookie mistake. But once we got there, it was actually, that's something that they really liked. They can throw that splash page up, that landing page for their hotel Wi-Fi, and that's it. Beyond that, we can put a login on their actual hotel's website so that the guests, wherever they are, can log in and have access to all of this. And we're verifying the guests through the property management system. Yeah.
How different will your offerings be if I'm logging on from the Ritz-Carlton versus the Super 8?
So the offerings are based on what we're building, essentially the framework, and there's core offerings that we're telling the hotels that we recommend, but each hotel is telling us what they do and don't want. If a hotel has a restaurant in-house, it's unlikely that our integration with Order In, which is like seamless, is something that they're going to want. We can connect to their in-house restaurant as well. So we also integrate all of their hotel services. So a guest can order, say they want towels to their room, or let's say you're out at a meeting and you want room service to happen, or you want to order drinks to your room or whatever it is. You can do that from your phone regardless of where you are, and it'll go straight to the hotel. There's also a chat so that regardless of where you are in the city, you can chat with the concierge. Yeah.
People have to sign in each time they go to a different hotel. They have logins that will be usable across any hotel they go to.
Yeah, so we look at this as our market entry strategy. At the moment, they'll have to sign in separately. It'll look like the hotel. It's completely white label. But as we continue to develop, ultimately we see this as a B2C product where you just have a login and you could choose your city essentially. Anything else? Yeah. Well, we're in the process of negotiating for the domain, but we're looking at Trip Hub, which is a little bit more appropriate. Our original product was transportation focused, so Sproute was more of an appropriate name. So, yeah.
How are you integrating with all those hotels' back-end services? Because I'm assuming that every hotel has different offerings to do room service on it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. There's 50 property management systems. We're integrating, depending on the property management system, we actually have a strategic partnership with a company in British Columbia that gets us into, they've given us an API access to about 40 of them, and then we're on a one-off basis integrating with the other ones. Yeah, which is a real pain, to be completely honest. That's it. Cool, thank you.
All right. How about a round of applause for all the startups tonight? We forgot, before we move on, we forgot to do one thing that I really like to do. So when we ask like who's here from wherever, entrepreneurs, developers, etc., I like to ask where people are from. So how many people here are from New Jersey? Wow, representing tonight. Anybody come from out of state? Anybody from out of state? Some guy in the back, somebody over there. Who thinks they came from the furthest away? The guy in the back, where do you come from? What's that? San Jose, nice. Like that. Anybody else? Yeah? Taiwan, that's solid. I know we got somebody back here. Where are you guys from? From Finland. Awesome. Take that, San Jose. So welcome the guys internationally. Thanks for coming. So we've been sitting down for a long time. Take 5 seconds, stand up, high five your neighbor, sit back down. All right, take a seat. We're going to get started. We're starting in the right spot here. There we go. Okay, good. All right. I'm very excited to announce tonight's speaker. We've had a lot of tech founders and people who are operationally involved at startups speak before. Tonight's speaker is an author, very involved with the business community, but comes at it from a different point of view. And instead of talking about how to build technology companies, he's going to talk a little bit more about how to build wealth, which presumably is a reason that some of us are trying to pursue technology businesses in the first place. So Louis Schiff is the executive director of Inc.'s Business Owners Council, a membership organization for Inc. Mag's top entrepreneurs and owners of closely held family businesses, and maintains a blog about behavioral entrepreneurism on Inc.com. He's co-authored 2 books. The Influence of Affluence, How the Rich Are Changing America, charts the rise of America's growing affluent middle class through original research and analysis. The Armchair Millionaire describes a wealth creation system that leverages Nobel Prize-winning methodologies. In his newest book, which you can see right here, called Business Brilliant, Surprising Lessons from the Greatest Self-Made Business Icons, which focuses on the wealth-creating behaviors and attitudes that work best in the new economy. It was published by HarperCollins in March of this year. So please join me in warmly welcoming Louis Schiff.
Okay, thanks everybody. Let me grab my water. So, well, that's a funny way to put it, Aaron. That everyone here is involved in tech startups, and presumably there's an interest in making money along the way. The group of people I spend time with would reverse that statement entirely. They do what they do because they want to make money. So, I'm very pleased to be in front of a group of people who come at this notion of what I would think of and call capitalism from the point of view of this fun, unique, relatively new in the scheme of things, sort of technology-oriented bent, and the world of startups, and that path. Because I'm going to talk about something that, I don't know, might even feel traditional and mainstream from your point of view, but in fact is sort of revolutionary from the vast majority of the capitalistic world, where creating wealth is kind of the reason they're in business, but it's also very elusive, and I'm talking about corporate America. So how many of you are familiar with, or how many of you read Inc. magazine? Let's start there. Inc. magazine is a magazine for entrepreneurs. The word entrepreneur means different things to different people. I'll just, as a counterexample, how many of you read Fast Company, which is our sister magazine? Oh, not even as many. I'm surprised to see that. Okay. And then last question, how many of you are familiar with the Inc. 5000? It used to be called the Inc. 500. Okay. So the Inc. 5000 is it's our marquee issue. It comes out September 1. And it's a list of 5,000 of the fastest growing companies. And what I mean by fastest growing is that their revenue, their top line revenue, is growing very, very fast. And we rank all the submitted companies, and they're all private companies. We rank all of them from the fastest growing, number 1, to the 5,000th fastest growing. And typically this ranges for companies growing in 10,000+% a year, which would be number 1. That's a stratospheric growth rate. Down to, let's say, 20% a year, which would be our 5,000th company. These are private companies. But what they all have in common is that in order to have top-line revenue, you have to have revenue. So revenue companies are different than pre-revenue companies. And pre-revenue companies would be a sort of a fancy word for startup, a company that has not yet developed its revenue stream. I'm going to talk to you tonight about how the folks who have revenue-oriented companies that have revenue are creating their wealth. So this is a sort of a different point of view from, I think, a lot of the models that are present. And not to sound like a wet blanket, but anyone who's familiar with the statistics of the likelihood of anyone becoming, let's say, the next Instagram, or even to be less kind of inflammatory, just the next startup that actually has a liquidity event, or actually completes a money-raising round and then actually has a liquidity event, are really, really, really small compared to the vast majority of companies that will be started this year that will do something relatively ordinary. So the companies on the Inc. 5000 list, there's certainly a presence for technology, but it's really a lot of ordinary companies that do ordinary things. And I want to tell you about those folks because that is where the vast majority of wealth is created in America, overwhelmingly, and always has been. And hopefully this will give you some, insight or some perspective in how you can orient your thinking as you're going through the startup world into how it really works with companies that have actually created revenues and turned them into great wealth. A little bit about my background. He mentioned I run a club for Inc. magazine for the owners of the fastest growing companies in America. So the members of my club are the owners of the Inc. 5000 community. We get together once a month. We have very interesting speakers, just like Aaron's doing here, and we talk about the issues that we face as companies that have revenues, but also have employees and problems and all those kinds of things. And but I do have a startup background. I come from New York City. I was part of Silicon Alley. One of my old Silicon Alley colleagues is here, actually, from iVillage. I sold a .com to a .com. The .com went public, and then it got sold to NBC. Everyone made a lot of money. But it was a unique experience for me. I got caught up in the whole .com startup world. Started a company after that with VC backing. That was the second .com I was involved in. I actually started a Worth magazine. For those of you familiar with Worth magazine, I started Worth.com. And I stood up in front of the board of directors and I said, this is 1993, I said, don't worry about the web, it's not going anywhere, let's just stick with AOL. AOL is going to be the winner. And I ended up at iVillage as a result of that. But so I have a lot of experience with and appreciation for the startup technology world. I also have, for the last 15 years, spent time with high net worth individuals and very, very successful entrepreneurs, a shift I made about in around the year 2000. And it gave me a very different perspective. I'm going to tell you what I've learned from spending time with very, very successful people. So, first of all, just as this is a non sequitur, but how many of you know who Joe Gibbs is, Washington Redskins coach? Right? Hall of Fame coach of the Washington Redskins during some of their most successful years. And Joe Gibbs was also an incredibly competitive guy. And so competitive he would sleep in his office during this season because he didn't want to go home and be distracted by his family. Dedication. One of the big jobs of a coach is to organize the whole scouting regime where the new players, the young players, would be found on the fields across America and brought up into that particular team. And he did not like the approach that was used universally for finding young talent because, believe it or not, when they found young talent, one of the first things they would do is they would give that young football player the SATs to see how their reading and writing skills were. You need reading and writing skills to some extent because you're reading football plays. So you need to know, how to read a football play. You need to know how to read and write. It's an aptitude test. Joe Gibbs had no appreciation for this test, and he devised an entirely different approach to recruiting players. What he did was he took his 4 best players, and he brought them to an optometrist, believe it or not. This optometrist's name was Dr. Harry Wachs. And when I spoke to Dr. Wachs about why he would ever bring somebody to, a football player to an optometrist, Harry said, you know the phrase, I see what you mean? So what Harry Wachs specialized in as an optometrist is understanding the difference between seeing things and understanding their meaning. And when Joe Gibbs brought his 4 best players, these are players he called football brilliant, not typically smart, wouldn't have done well in the SATs at all, and would have failed the scouting process, but they were football brilliant. They deeply understood the game, the nature of the game, how it's a 3-dimensional game, and the needs of the strategy changed second by second. And so when he brought them to this optometrist, he said, devise me a test that I can use as a scouting tool so that I could find football brilliant players. And that's what Dr. Wachs did. It became something called the Wachs-Berger test. And the Washington Redskins scouts went out with a whole bunch of new tools. They went out with goggles that would change your line of sight and little tiddlywink tools to test hand-eye coordination. And wouldn't you know it, Joe Gibbs went on to build one of the winningest teams in football history, winning 2 Super Bowls after he adopted what became the Wachs-Berger method for recruiting players. So the story about Joe Gibbs that's so important is that he took a very non-traditional approach in a very traditional field. And that's going to be the theme of my talk today. How do you approach the things you're doing in a non-conventional way, but in a way that has evidence that it works when everyone else is doing things the same way. And believe it or not, even though I think what's alluring about the technology world, which is that it seems unorthodox and non-traditional, in fact, a lot of conventions have already been formed in the technology world. And one of the challenges I think all of us have is to focus not on what everyone else is doing, but on what actually works. So we're going to talk a bit about that. Now, some of you heard of Joe Gibbs, Washington Redskins coach, but I'm sure none of you have ever heard of Russ Prince. Russ Allen Prince is, like Joe Gibbs is a great coach, Russ Allen Prince is a great coach, but he's a coach to the very, very wealthy. So his clients hire him the same way that a great coach would work with a football team or golfer or any kind of athlete. The best coaches work with the best athletes. And in Russ's case, the best coaches which he is, he works with the wealthiest people already. So to give you a sense of Russ's engagements, he has a client, he's a friend of mine, he has a client who fell off the Forbes 400 list. And the engagement was, get me back on the list. Help me refine my methods and practices to get back up there. Some coaches help you shave an extra second off your time. Russ helps you find an extra billion. And that kind of thinking is where Russ likes to spend his time. He and I are friends. The book before this, which is called The Influence of Affluence, he was my co-author on. And Russ is a social science researcher in his heart, and so he loves to do original research. And he has spent the last 15 or 20 years spending time with what are called centimillionaires, people with hundreds of millions of dollars, and billionaires. And he has discerned and learned over time that there are actually let me see if this thing works. There are 7 methods that reliably and consistently lead to wealth. And he's done this in a combination of direct work with billionaires and with surveys of large groups of people. And when he and I spoke about this, and again, we've known each other for about 15 years now. We wrote a book together that came out in 2007, so we spent from 2005 to 2007 working very closely together. And the way he got to this is the same way that Joe Gibbs got to his success. So instead of them being football brilliant in Joe Gibbs' case, he was looking for people who were business brilliant, thus the title of the book. He was looking for people who may or not have appeared smart in any traditional context, but had a deep, deep understanding of what it took to create success. And that success is overwhelmingly created in the business world. Not the stock market, but the business world. And so as we spoke for years about this research and how he was accumulating it both statistically and sort of organically, he was convincing me that there actually is a set of best practices that can be discovered about people and then maybe even learned that can help us be better wealth creators. And when I got the book contract to do this book, I launched the book by saying to the publisher, HarperCollins, I was going to publish a book that studied the gap between the understanding of business success or financial success from the point of view of normal people, regular people, everyday people, and business brilliant people. And so to do this, we did a survey of 800 households, and I'm going to tell you about that survey and the results in a moment. But the thing is, we did that survey research in January of 2009. And for those of you who can recall, 2009, especially January, was a especially dark period. The economy was absolutely in free fall. And if you had a job, you worried about losing it every day. And if you were any kind of a self-employed consultant or had a business of your own, so many adventures failed during that period. And so as we were talking about, Russ and I talking about and then researching what it took to be successful, and then looking at what was happening in the population at large and how failures were piling on top of failures, uncertainty piling on top of uncertainty, it raised the level of urgency of our book. So this is a book that ultimately called Business Brilliant, and it's about how wealth is created, but it's about something very, very different. I think all of you are already on to this, which is there has been a great shift in risk away from sort of institutional life in corporate America, which is both creatively unsatisfying, but also has a high risk of being financially unsatisfying, to things like entrepreneurship, to things like startups. And if you're going to make that shift, which I'm wholly in support of as an Inc. magazine person, as a lifelong entrepreneur myself, you have to start understanding and appreciating the best practices of people who came before you who have succeeded. And best practices are pretty simple. Best practices are when you look at a large body of research, you see people, let's say in my case 2 groups doing something, and one group is doing it differently than the other group, and one group's getting different results than the other group, and you trace it back to the best practices. So this is really a challenge to all of us. I'm going to show you my research for whether or not you want to keep doing the things the way you've been doing them, or whether you want to do them the way great wealth creators have done them. If indeed creating wealth, take Aaron's point, if indeed creating wealth is your goal, Because one of the things that we see in the technology world is that creating wealth is sometimes a secondary thought. I mean, how many of you are VCs? I'm about to insult you, so I want to make sure I know who you are when you punch me later. Good, no VCs in them. Working with VCs is not a path to wealth because they end up controlling your company and they manage most of the wealth creation. And, you know, startups is an interesting path and it's creative, but the ability to actually create wealth from it is extremely rare. Let me tell you a little bit about, I'm not going to go through all 7 of these best practices. That's what the book's about, and it goes into great detail. And I'll tell you, not only is there research, but stories about some of our favorite entrepreneurs, from Bill Gates to Steve Jobs to Richard Branson to Warren Buffett to David Neeleman from JetBlue, on and on and on, some of these great wealth creators. And the book is really kind of explaining how they got where they got to by looking at a vast body of research. But what I am going to do is walk you through a sort of a synthesis of everything I learned, which I call LEAP, Learn, Earn, Assistance, Persistence. A very simple mnemonic and a very simple behavioral change exercise. And this is what I'm really going to go through in detail. Learn what you do best. Earn money by doing it. Get assistance with what you don't do best. And use persistence to overcome self-doubt. LEAP, Learn, Earn, Assistance, Persistence. If you have any experience with cognitive behavioral therapy, you know, it's an exercise of really rewiring your brain, teaching your brain to think differently. And if you have a real problem in your life, like an alcoholic or something like that, you have to use cognitive behavioral therapy to think differently about alcohol. In this case, what I'm presenting to you is a way to think differently about how you create wealth. And this probably looks relatively simple. And you might look at this and say, you know, I guess I kind of already knew all this. This doesn't seem that impactful. And so just give me a chance, because I'm going to walk you through how best practices research, A, tells us that this actually works, and B, that most people don't, even when they read it, even when they look at it, they don't believe it. Or they don't think that this is really where the impact is made. And I'm going to show you how this does work, and it comes from the research based on time that we have spent with millionaires, with centimillionaires, and with billionaires. So let me first tell you a little bit about the research itself. As I think I mentioned, we studied 800 households. And of these 800 households, about 50% of them, 394 of them, fell into a category called the middle class. And the middle class in my book, the way I study it, is that they had a net worth of less than $1 million. And some of you might laugh when I say this, but they had a middle class income of between $50,000 and $80,000. And the reason why I say that might be funny is that in places like New York, $50,000 to $80,000 is a struggle. But in fact, the household income, the median household income in America is $50,000. Half of the households, there's about 100 million households in America, and half of them make less than 50 and half make more than 50. So $50,000 to $80,000 is the middle, and up what's called a quintile, one quintile, and that represents, you know, the middle of the middle class. Then I went on to people who had accumulated worth but were all self-made. So the middle class millionaire has a net worth of between $1 million and $10 million. Self-made, meaning they started out in a middle class or lower class household, working class household, and they created their own wealth. They did not receive it through inheritance. They did not receive it through a divorce or any other kind of settlement. The high net worth in my survey has a net worth of between $10 million and $30 million. And my ultra-high net worth category is 30 million all the way up to whatever, which includes some billionaires. And so I studied 50% of the middle class, about 25% of these $1 to $10 million folks, about 15% of my $10 to $30 million folks, and about 10% of my greater than $30 million folks. And you will see as I go through the research that there is a behavioral difference between these 4 groups. But what we're focused on primarily is what separates the middle class from everybody else. And I'm going to make a couple of assumptions about the room, but you guys can do your own reading. You'll see. I'm assuming that most of us or a lot of us fall into the less than $1 million net worth and that we all aspire to move up. Some of us might fall into the 1 to 10, and then others might fall into higher categories. But about 9% of America's households fall into the $1 to $10 million category. That actually is a larger number represented in places like the Northeast or California. But you'll see that there's an interesting set of leaps that you need to make to get to $10 million. And the reason why I bring that up is because there's a lot of people had a dream once, and the dream was that they wanted to be millionaires. And of course, having $1 million isn't really a millionaire anymore, right? I mean, it just doesn't quite make you feel like a millionaire. I think a different understanding would be that $10 million makes you feel like a millionaire. That's a sort of a rule of thumb in my industry. If you want to be a millionaire, you need about $10 million. So pay a little bit of attention to this category between the $1 million to $10 million crowd, which is right here, and the one that goes above it. What does it take to be what I'll keep calling a millionaire, even though I'm really talking about 10 million and up? What does it take to be a millionaire in America today? So let's go through some of the research, and we'll start this off. And I'm going to ask you guys to do some work tonight, okay? So you can either use smartphones or if you have pen and paper. And this is the first thing I'm going to ask you to do. The letter L, discover your center. By center, I mean the thing that you are exceptionally good at that you can make money doing. So I'd like to ask you guys to do something, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do it. That is a little unfair, because actually it should take a lifetime to figure this out, and I'm only giving you 5 minutes. But this is the beginning of a journey for all of you about refining down to a very core set of things that you do very, very well. I'd like you to write down, if you could, what you are exceptionally good at that makes you money. And that could be you or your company. And let me give you some examples of the kinds of things people talk about. People tell me that they're great coaches, they're very creative, they're good at connecting creative with technology, they're good at hiring, they're good at firing, they're good at sales, closing, opening, they're good at strategy, they're good at the details, they're good on their feet, they're good, at the computer. It can be anything you want it to be. But these are the skills, the behaviors that you have used successfully to make money for yourself, or if you work for a company, for a company. Start 5 minutes right now, and I'd like you to write down as many of these as you can think of for yourself. But focus on the word exceptional. Not just sort of good at, but that you're exceptionally good at that makes you money. And if you focus on the word exceptional, you'll really hit the nail on this exercise. So go ahead and get started. So one question I like to ask at this point is, does anybody, and this is putting somebody in the spot, anybody who decided not to do this exercise want to share briefly why they didn't do the exercise? Maybe you're tired, all those sorts of good reasons. Hard work to think about this. You already know what you're good at, whatever. If anyone want to just share why they didn't do the exercise? Or, I know you all didn't do it, I was watching. Anybody? All right. From this point on, I explained to you learn, earn, assistance, persistence. It looks really simple. I'm about to start showing you the data that shows that this is in fact truth, and it in fact works, and it in fact leads to wealth. So again, I love Aaron's point, because that's not always the first thing in everyone's mind, but if that's important to you, start paying attention. Okay, when we asked this question of our folks, here's what we found out. First of all, when we asked the question, our middle class survey respondents, only half of them could even answer the question, yes, I know what I'm exceptionally good at that makes me money, or makes my employer money. The other half didn't even know what they were exceptionally good at. They couldn't even start to address the question. As you go up in levels of wealth, as you can see, the answers yes to that question grow. By the time we get to the high net worth and the ultra high net worth, all of them can answer this question. They all have thought about and know, and this is a phone survey of 800 households. There's not time to prepare. They can answer the question, what I am exceptionally good at that makes me money. That level of confidence and level of awareness goes up with wealth. If you look at the next number, the number of things they wrote down goes down with wealth. They know more about what they're good at, and the number of things that they are confident that they are exceptional at goes down with levels of wealth. There's a word for this. It's a simple word, and it's an important word. Anyone think of the word that this exemplifies?
Expertise.
That's a good word, actually, but no. There's two words at this. No. What's that? Specialist? Focus. Whoever said focus. Focus. What a simple word, right? I mean, we know it, heard about it, multitasking this and that. We all have phones in front of our face. Focus is directly related to wealth creation. The ability to focus and spend your time doing what you do best, is directly related to wealth creation. What so many of us have learned over time, I'll show you this next statistic. What so many of us have learned over time is to try and learn how to get better at the things we're poor at. Right? You know what, there's a word for this. It's called being well-rounded. Right? In school or at our HR offices, when we're going through a performance review, they say, here's some of your weaknesses, let's work on your weaknesses. And the goal is to become well-rounded so that you can become more of a utility or a generalist, which, directly to the word expert, specialist, to be more of a generalist so that you can play a lot of roles at the company, or you can do a lot of things well at school and be a well-rounded person. In fact, wealth creation is focused more on focus, picking a few things, doing them really, really well, better than anyone around you, and building a business or finding a way to make money doing those. So for all of you in the startup world, or the tech world, this is a moment of truth. Are you doing something at your startup where you are exceptionally good at that can lead to making money? Right? And so this is the difference between innovation, the way we think of it at Inc., or the way we think of it at companies that have revenue, which means they have complexity and a lot of stuff going on, and the way it's often talked about in the startup world. Innovation to us is not a new product or a new widget or a new app. It's the way we run our companies. Innovation is the way we run our companies. It's the ways that we motivate employees. It's the ways that we build our management teams. It's the ways that we structure our deals with our capital providers. That's where we get to show our exceptional qualities. And if we're especially good at those things, that's where our innovation takes place, and that's how wealth is created. One of the things I found in my survey is that no matter what level of wealth, you spend a lot of time doing this thing which everyone calls putting out fires. That general grab bag of things, which is not anything you're exceptionally good at, but have to be done. And it's not surprising to hear that as the company gets bigger, the sort of fires you have to put out, the number of them, and certainly maybe not the depth of them, but the number of them increase. And it doesn't really matter what level of wealth you have. Even billionaires spend a lot of time putting out fires. So a roadmap to success for this area that's called Learn, Discover Your Center, is this. Spend as little time as possible putting out fires. Spend as much time as possible doing the thing you are especially good at that makes money for you. Really successful people, and this ratio is different for everyone, even billionaires are putting out fires, but really successful people might spend 20, 30, 40, 50% of their time doing what they are exceptionally good at. The rest of their time is putting out fires. Some of the most successful people I know, really wildly, the billionaires that I know, the names that you guys would recognize, will spend 80 to 90% of their time doing what they're exceptionally good at. 10 to 20% of their time putting out fires. Building an innovative organization that can help you do that and be that person, now that is innovation. Yes, sir?
I just want to clarify, everyone in this category is only self-made, so the ultra high net worth people in this study do not include anyone that inherited ultra high net worth?
Right. There is not a single person who, let me be more specific. You cannot have received more than $50,000 from your family, including your education, to become self-made for my survey. That probably rules out almost everyone in this room from being self-made if your parents helped you pay for your education, or a lot of you anyway. You have to have received less than $50,000 from your family to be in the self-made category. So, rule number one, do not try to be well-rounded. Focus on a few things. Build a company around you that helps you do what you are exceptionally good at. Those were I told Aaron, those were three great pitches I heard. They were really professional. They were excellent. But they were about companies, and they were asking you to invest in their company. But what I'm curious about for each of those individuals is how are they exceptionally good at whatever it will take to take that company to the next level as individuals. The company's important. The innovation was fantastic. But I want to know about the individuals and how they are maximizing the likelihood of their success by focusing all their energy on what they are exceptionally good at. Here's my fortune cookie. In order to be more successful, you must do more of what you do best. A simple maxim that is borne out in the research. Okay, that's the letter L. Now let's go to the letter E. Earn. Maximize your opportunity. I think all of you guys inherently understand this, but we're going to have to find out whether you're actually walking the talk. So there are a few what I call rungs in the ladder of money, okay? Let me start at number 4, the least valuable rung in the ladder of money. It's called player pricing. It's when you're paid for your time. That means you're an employee. Maybe you're a consultant. Sometimes you're a high-paid consultant, like a lawyer, but you're still paid for your time. If you put in 40 hours, you get... Go ahead. You put in 40 hours of work, you get paid for 40 hours of pay. Okay? You could be Derek Jeter, and that's a pretty good hourly rate, don't get me wrong, but you're still an hourly worker. The next level up would be project pricing. This is something I think a lot of you who are in the new economy are really starting to do and doing well, which is instead of being paid, let's say, $100 to work on a project and it takes you, let's say, $10 an hour, 10 hours, it's $100 of your time. You know, you got paid for all your time, but you didn't make any profit per se. In project pricing, you'll take that same project for $100. You'll farm it out to people who would do it even cheaper than you. It'll cost you $80 for them to do it. You'll keep the $20 for yourself. Now you have something that's called profit for the first time. That's a project. And even if you work for a company, you can structure relationships with your employers where you start to do things like this. Get paid for whatever, you know, they give you a project, they give you a budget of $1,000. If you can get it done for $100 less, can I get a bonus of $20, boss, right? You can start to structure project pricing even in corporate America, but a lot of you who are in the startup world and you're going out on the entrepreneurial path, maybe for the first time or maybe for the 10th time, you're familiar with project pricing. Percentage pricing is next, where you get a piece of the revenue created. So if it sells, the widget that you're involved with sells 1,000 units at $10, it's $10,000, and you get 1% of it. That's when you're in percentage pricing. That's even better than project pricing and way better than player pricing. And then finally, you end up at the top rung of money, not surprising, which is to be the proprietor, the owner. Whatever positive progress is made, whatever attributes or intellectual property or credibility is created, you're the owner of it. And that's what they call entrepreneurs, and that's who our heroes, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, have become, and especially those who have managed to hold on to it while the VCs have tried to take it. If you're a proprietor, you are on the highest rung in the line of money. So find out what rung you're in today and move up at least one rung. Try to move up one rung. That will get you one step closer to creating wealth. So when we looked at the wealth creation sources for our survey respondents, nothing surprising about any of it. The middle class primarily created their wealth, or their source of income is a job. And you can see as we go down up levels of wealth, the reliance on a job goes down. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But what's interesting about this is this category called middle class millionaire. So a lot of us who are below $1 million in net worth, who one day aspire to have something like $1 to $10 million, who want to live that lifestyle, that's a lifestyle that's often peopled by, like I said, high-paid players like lawyers and professionals and doctors. They make that kind of money. And so you're seeing them here. Whoopsie. You're seeing them here in this professional practice or this job area. Here in the New York region, there's a group of people, we call them Wall Street, but they're really under a category of highly compensated corporate executives. They're really well-paid people. They work for companies, and so it's believable, certainly in this part of the country, in this part of the world, to think you can actually live the life of a $1 to $10 million guy or gal by having some kind of a highly compensated corporate job, or by becoming an architect or a doctor or a lawyer, all the things that our mom wanted us to be. But I want you to know that you cannot get to the highest levels of wealth. You will never get to the highest levels of wealth in any of those jobs, in any of those pursuits. Ultimately, you have to get into business for yourself. You have to join the highest rung on the line of money, which is to be the proprietor, or a partner. There is virtually no other path to get there. What we're all involved in here is not jobs, should not be jobs. They should not be practices. They should be businesses. Think about those 3 great pitches I heard today. Think about all the business model ideas you have. If you're being paid for your time, it's a bad model. It just is never going to scale. You're never going to get to the place you need to get to. The letter A, assistance. Now this is a fun one, okay? So develop your network. And obviously, by being here tonight, you're all on the right path. I mean, everyone here, I run a business owners council. I run a group where I have great speakers. I've had Deepak Chopra and Howard Schultz and Russell Simmons. I've had great people, but I always ask myself, are my members going to do one of 2 things to come tonight? Are they going to not go to a meeting where there's a potential revenue generating opportunity to come see Deepak Chopra. Or I ask myself, are they going to skip out on juniors, finals game in soccer to come see Russell Simmons? That's the criteria that I set for the group I'm in. Will they cancel these critical appointments that either have to do with making money or fulfilling family obligations to come out and network? I applaud all of you for taking the time out of your busy lives to spend time with each other, grow and learn, but also meet each other. Networking is so important. The next exercise I have for you is, is this. Write down on a piece of paper on your smartphones the names or the initials. You're not going to tell anyone these names, doesn't matter. But the initials are the names of people who drive work to you. In other words, they create opportunity for you. Or they lead you to new business specifically. In other words, if you're the baker, who leads work to you? The wedding event planner, the corporate event planner, the flea market, the food fair vendors who need to have food delivered. These are the people who drive opportunity and work to you. I would like you to spend some time just writing down the names of the people, or their initials, or their first name, of the people in your network who really and genuinely drive opportunity your way. I'll give you just a few minutes to do this because it should be right at your fingertips. Who's in your network that really matters, that drives work to you or opportunity to you? Okay, another minute or so. Start to wrap up. Okay. So we're going to get to this list in a moment, but before I do, I want to share with you just another statistic. When we surveyed our survey respondents on the question of networking, we asked questions like, is it important to know a lot of people? Is it important to know powerful people? And the answers were all over the place. Everyone agreed, yeah, it's important to know a lot of people. Everyone agreed it's important to know powerful people in roughly the same numbers. In other words, there wasn't much of a distinction between our wealthy cohort and our middle class cohort, except in one area. And it opened up in the book a fascinating area of discourse. So we found that in this question, it's essential to know people who know people. We found differentiation. This is the best example. This is a good example of best practices, where you see differentiation between the two groups, and then you ask yourself, should I change my conduct based on this data? So we found that as you went up in levels of wealth, the answers yes to this question rose very quickly, right? So half of the middle class said, yes, it's essential to know people who know people. And as we went up in wealth, it went all the way up to 95.9% for our highest net worth segment. It's essential to know people who know people. So when I was asking you to create that list, I was talking about who do you know that knows people? Who do you know that's calling you and saying, Joe's got an opportunity that you might want to know about. This guy has this and that guy has that. Maybe you can put them together. Who do you know who knows people? What's that network look like? Let's take a look at this network. Whether you're looking at the work getting done, right? In other words, you get the work, you need half a dozen people to help you figure it out, how to get it done. Or whether you're looking at the people you network with to actually attract business, obviously an important goal for a lot of us here tonight. The numbers go down with wealth. The number of people in your circle goes down with wealth. Knowing people who know people becomes concentrated on a fewer number of people. So the reason why this is happening, if it's not apparent to you, that's okay. The reason why this is happening is that the high net worth, the successful self-made people we survey, spend more time cultivating high quality relationships with fewer people than more people. And what do I mean by cultivating high quality relationships? The very high net worth people I survey will tell you, they've got 4 or 5 people in their lives that they really rely on to get work from, to create new opportunity for them. They can also tell you a lot about the people that they do this with. So for example, if they have 4 people or 5 people in their network, they are likely to be able to tell you how much money that person makes, how much money that person wants to make, how much business they can send their way to help contribute to that, and they're expecting the same thing in return. So if you look at your list, A, is it 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people? I would suggest it's hard to have intimate connection with that many people. And B, I would say, ask yourself this very simple litmus test. Of that list of people, how many of you have you ever had a conversation with them about how much money they make? Or how much money they want to make this year? And how you can help them get there? And how many of you have had the reverse conversation? How much money do you make? How much do you want to make? How can you help me get there? That's intimacy on a business level. And that's the kind of relationships they have with the network they have. Big networks where you have low intimacy, small networks where you have high intimacy. That's the axis we're talking about here for wealth creation in terms of the quality of your network. Now, there's a word that is often associated with wealthy people that is a snarky word, but actually both groups use it. Both the wealthy use it and the non-wealthy use it, which is the word luck. A lot of people think wealthy people are lucky, right? They got to work at that startup, or they were at the right place at the right time. And wealthy people will tell you they were lucky because they got to work at that startup and they were at the right place at the right time. They're using the same word, same actual events, but they're using the content of that word, and the context of that word is very, very different. Let me break down what luck means to you for this community. There's something called transitivity. It's really a way of measuring the quality of your network. And if you have a low transitivity score, it means a lot of the people in your network already know each other. If you have a high transitivity score, it means that a lot of people in your network don't know each other. Let me tell you how this works. There's 4 types of people in your network. Those who don't need each other and they don't know each other. Okay? Don't need each other means, they just have no connectivity. They don't have any business they want to do with each other. They're apples and oranges. They can't really help each other. Don't know each other is good for transitivity, high transitivity score. A network of people who don't know each other and don't need each other, not so good, right? You have a lot of people who don't know each other, but they don't need each other. Need each other and know each other is also not good for you for a wealth creation point of view, because they may have needs that they can fill, but they don't need you as a broker between them. You don't add any value by being the connector between these two folks. There is no opportunity created for you in this network paradigm. The third network paradigm would be they don't need each other, but they know each other. These are the people we grew up with, right? Our high school friends mostly. Okay, we're friends. We don't actually need each other anymore. We're connected, and we all know each other. There's only one quadrant that has any value to a wealth creator, which is when they need each other, but they don't know each other. That's the only quadrant that has value. And your guys are doing it here tonight. I mean, this is an example of a network of people who may need each other, but they don't know each other just yet. That's where value is created. Steve Jobs' great gift at Apple was being able to connect creative people who needed tools to express their creativity with technologists who could build the very tools that they needed. He was the liaison, the translator between those two groups. They needed each other, but they didn't know each other. And he built an entire company around that intersection. When I had a chance to interview Russell Simmons, he had one of his big wins was his fashion company that he sold to a mainstream fashion manufacturer. But he was at the intersection of urban youth and mainstream youth. They needed each other, they didn't know each other, and he was the translator for those two groups. This is called luck to most people. And so when you look at these two qualities, education, meaning technical knowledge, versus luck, it's interesting to see how these two groups value them differently. Middle class people value knowledge, technical education, knowing how to do stuff. As we saw in the letter L, learn, they actually are well-rounded. They know how to do a lot of stuff, but not so well. They're all kind of generalists. Education, technical skill is not highly valued by wealthy people because they know that it's the value of their network where they really create value. And so they would value something like luck, which is creating a network of people who need each other but don't know each other, much more highly than they would create technical knowledge. Think back to your list of things that you're especially good at. How many of them are built around technical knowledge? How many of you are the best, HTML5 coders in all of Hoboken? Great technical knowledge. Aaron, he's going to create a lot of luck because he knows a lot of people who need each other but don't know each other. Right? That's a path that leads to wealth creation much more substantially than having technical knowledge. Excuse me. Luck, it's a byproduct of your network. Luck is essential to creating wealth. Okay, very simple concept. And that's under the letter A, assistance, building your network. So I have just one last little letter to go. I know this has been a long night for everybody. So let's go to the last one, which is the letter P, persistence. And you can be great at figuring out what you're especially good at. You could be great at getting into the highest rung in the line of money that's available to you. You could be great at building a network that really can help you. And if you don't have persistence, none of that will matter. Because you can do everything right, and you still don't hit the nail on the head. One of the story after story, and we love these stories when we read about them in Inc. and other places, are people who persevered through adversity. But persevering through adversity is really a way of saying you're doing everything pretty well, and you're going to do it better every time, but you have to keep trying over and over again. Even when you're doing everything right, it doesn't mean it works out right. So we asked our survey respondents, what did you do after a significant failure or career setback? Now, I just want you to keep in mind something as we go through this. When I asked you to make that list of things, if you made a list of things that you're especially good at that was 6 or 7 or 10 things long, the way you find out how to reduce things off that list, strike them off, is by having some kind of a failure or setback around them. I thought I was the best at sales, but I can't seem to close a deal. Maybe I'm not so good at it. Strike it off your list. Life and failures help you refine what you're best at. And if you don't go through failures successfully, and you know what I mean when I say that, you will never refine your list. That's why it's a lifetime pursuit to come up with a list of things you're especially good at. What did you do after a significant failure or career setback? You can see here that our middle class survey respondents did not think that trying again in the same field was important. In other words, when they had a failure, they didn't think trying again in the same field was the way to do it. As you go up in levels of wealth, big jump for the middle class millionaire, and then it just goes into the 90% category. Trying again the same field. Doing it again in a different way. Doing it again in a different way so you can figure out what you're really good at. Doing it again in a different way so you can figure out whether you are not so good at the thing you thought you were good at. Doing it again in a different way. Trying again in the same field shows up, but then the striking one here is the bottom one, which is the most common response for the middle class after they have a career setback is to give up. So you guys are technologists, you're in technology, and a lot of you are in startups. So here's the thing, a book I recommend to all of you is called The Dip by Seth Godin. But really the larger story is, we in America have perfected the art of the startup. But the number of people who have perfected how to go past the startup and persevere through the natural market response to our product without giving up, way smaller. We've perfected the art of starting. We have not perfected the art of persevering. It's inevitable as you sit around and you come up with your best ideas and you say, oh, the people are going to love this, the public's going to love that, my market's going to love this. Fine, that's the startup. But there comes a moment when you have to ask the community, your market, what do they think? Are they really willing to pay for it? Are they really willing to use it the way you want them to use it? They're going to tell you what they think. If you cannot persevere through that process and sustain capital and sustain your team and talent and sustain your pipeline, then you will have failed in the course of your startup. Giving up is the most common response from the middle class. It's just not even present in our higher net worth audiences. Trying again over and over again in the same field in a different way, it's the most common response from wealthy people. Hopefully this gives you some armament that when you experience that adversity, which you're all going to experience, you know that pushing through separates you from everybody else. little bit more about this just to give you a sense of why this topic is such a troublesome topic for all of us. When we asked, have failures taught you what you are good at? The most common response from our ultra high net worth answer is yes to this. And you look at the high net worth, 78% yes, 58% for the middle class. Failures have taught me what I'm good at. I use failure as a learning tool to refine my list of things I'm especially good at that make me money. The letter L, leap, learn. Failures have taught me what I'm good at. So there seems to be a misunderstanding by the middle class about the role of failure in their lives. That failure is supposed to be a learning tool, not an act of something else like shame. Let's talk about shame. When we look at this line. Basically, 83 to 97%, all of our survey respondents, almost all of them, have had ventures or career moves that have failed. In other words, almost everyone or everyone in our survey has experienced a setback. Okay? Now look at this next line. I'm going to put this together in a moment. There's a reason why these three are together. My business associates have experienced business failures. 19% for the middle class. 19%, they report, 19% of them reported that their business associates have experienced business failures. 60% of our middle class millionaire survey respondents have reported that their business associates have experienced failures. 78 and 85%. If 83% of these folks have failed and only 20% of them can report that a business associate has failed, what's wrong with the math here? Middle class people, when they fail, they experience shame. They don't talk about it. They feel bad about it. No wonder they don't treat it as a learning tool to find out what they're good at. No wonder they don't try to do it again, but instead give up. Middle class people experience failure, and I'm from the middle class, I'm knocking all of us, but middle class people experience failure as an act of shame. Self-made millionaires experience failure as a learning opportunity. They talk about it more with each other. They share their stories and their learnings. Here's why I wrote it in the book. I've always appreciated this illustration. For middle class people, failure feels like getting punched in the face. Okay? You would never want to get punched in the face. It's a shocking thing if it ever happens to you. It's not like it couldn't happen, but it would be a total shock if it happened. And you would certainly not ask for it, and you would not want to repeat it. For self-made millionaires, failure is like going to the dentist. Okay? You don't want to go to the dentist, but you know you have to go to the dentist in order to keep your mouth healthy. It's a natural part of the process. You have to go through it. Middle-class people want to avoid it. Self-made millionaires don't look for it, but they know it's part of the deal. And when it happens, they try again in a different way, and they refine what they're better at over and over and over again. LEAP, it's a circle, and it's not a linear, it's a circle. You start with what you think you're good at. You get yourself in the highest line of money to try and do it well. You build a network of people around you who can help you do it well. You create luck through that network if it's carefully cultivated. And then you persist through adversity in order to refine every one of those first things. So I'm going to wrap up in a minute, but I started out by saying that I'm going to tell you how LEAP works, L-E-A-P, and it's still, even when you're looking at it, and even though it's relatively simple, it's very easy to discount. In fact, even if I tell you the secrets of wealth, it may be hard for some of you or even many of you to actually put it into practice. And we have to ask ourselves why. Why, when best practices are made available and apparent, are they so hard to adopt? And the answer is really that, well, we already have a way of thinking. So you're asking us to think differently. And that's very, very difficult to do. So I want to tell you about why, even when the answers are in front of us, it's so hard to adopt by telling you a short story that has nothing to do with money at all. It has to do with health. So Dr. Richard Shannon, he's a gentleman who runs Allegheny General Hospital. And in his hospital, in the intensive care unit, there was a natural incidence of about 19 deaths per year from something called hospital-acquired infections. You guys know what hospital-acquired infections are? Infections you get when you go into the hospital. You didn't have them when you went in. You get them while you're there. 19 deaths per year in that one little hospital from something that they didn't even have when they went in. And the doctors at Allegheny General were pretty proud of that. You know that 250 people a day die from hospital-acquired infections? And that's more than people who die from car accidents every day? So at this one little hospital, they were pretty proud that they were basically average 19 deaths per year from hospital-acquired infections. Dr. Richard Shannon comes in and he says, that's unacceptable. He takes a course. You guys are familiar with lean startup, lean manufacturing? He takes a course that applies lean manufacturing, the Toyota way, to the healthcare world. Now, the Toyota way, or lean manufacturing, are best practices. Very simple ideas applied in an industry over and over again until you can prove and demonstrate that this behavior has a different outcome. You don't have to know why in lean manufacturing or best practices. You just have to know it works. And so he takes this course on how to apply lean manufacturing to hospitals. And he loves the course, and it's a powerful course. And he learns that you can take these ideas that were born on a factory floor from people who were sometimes weren't even high school graduates, and you could apply them to the healthcare field. And his colleagues say that's crazy. The human body is way more complicated than something like a car. And we're doctors, and those are factory workers. Those ideas will not work here. Luckily, Dr. Shannon is the boss. And not only is he a boss, but he's pretty good at what he does. So he forces the intensive care unit to apply these lean manufacturing principles at Allegheny General Hospital. And he also sets a new standard at the same time, which is 0 is the only acceptable number for hospital-acquired infection deaths at Allegheny General Intensive Care. They apply it well. One of the things that's really important to lean is that anyone at any level can call anyone out for not applying the principles well. Best practices that are done half-assed are not best practices. So he tells the story of the radiologist not doing something he's supposed to do, and the nurse calls him on it. And that's something that's really hard to do in most hospitals because the hierarchy is so strong. But he creates that environment that's more beholden to practices than it is to culture. And in 60 days, Allegheny General Hospital has 0 deaths for that month, and it has held at 0 deaths as a standard ever since they applied lean manufacturing. You would think, after having that kind of success, every other hospital would say, you got it, you figured it out. What did you do, Dr. Shannon? Because we're all going to do the same thing. That's not what happened. This is from the Times, and I'll just read to you a couple parts. The headline is, Hospital Infections Problems Persist. And this is years after Richard Shannon's experiment. The nagging and largely solvable problem of hospital-acquired infections remains as resistant to cure as the germs that contribute to an estimated 100,000 deaths a year, according to a government study. Dr. Carolyn Clancy pointed out that projects across the country had shown remarkable success in reducing infection rates by adhering to basic standards for hand hygiene, disinfection of patients, sterile handling of equipment, proper use of antibiotics. Here's what's important. At many hospitals, those successes have yet to overcome an entrenched medical culture. Look at this list of things that you had to do in a hospital to save people's lives. Wash your hands regularly, clean the patients regularly, handle the equipment carefully, manage antibiotics better. There was not a single thing in here that the doctors and nurses of Allegheny weren't well trained to do already. There's not a single thing in here that required them to buy an expensive piece of equipment they didn't already have. There's not a single thing in here that required new management to come in and shake things up. It was just best practices faithfully applied. Best practices faithfully applied. What is it about best practices that we find so hard to apply? It's just different from what we're used to. Learn what you do best. Earn money by doing what you do best. Get assistance with what you don't do best. Use persistence to overcome self-doubt. This is what the middle class, heartbreakingly, this is what the middle class don't understand about wealth creation. And when they see it, and when they hear it, and when they're shown the numbers of it, they're still not sure they're ready to do it because the middle class is locked into an entrenched culture of how they do things. And even though there's best practices that show that there's a different way to do it, they have trouble with it. I'm going to stop there because we've gone on quite a while. So I just want you to all obviously give some thought to this and ask yourself, are you all ready to take the leap? Thanks very much. Do we have time for questions? Any questions? Yes, sir.
You've done quite a few things in your life. What do you think your sister has done?
That's a great question. So I'm down to 2 things, and I'm working to get it to 1. But one is I like to ask questions. So I run a council. I run a council where I get to have these great people come up and I ask all the questions typically. I've had, I mentioned some of these names. I've had a lot of other really bright people who are not nearly as famous come up and I get to ask them questions and I love that. And consistent with that, really connected to that, is I like to be paid to learn things. So most people pay to learn things. They pay tuition. You're looking at a guy who, I went to one of the best high schools in the country. I did get through. I managed to graduate, but that's the last school I ever went to. I don't like to pay to learn. I like to be paid to learn. I've written 3 books. Been paid a lot of money to get those book projects. I went into every time to the publisher. I said, here's what this book is going to be about. I'm the right person to write it because I'm an expert in it. They believed me 3 times now. And 3 times I had no idea what I was talking about. And I used their money, and 2 or 3, this book took me 4 years to write, to learn the subject that I was interested in. So today, I run a business owners council where I get to ask people questions and I'm being paid to do it, because that's my job. And I write books to learn stuff and I get paid to do it. Those are my 2 things, and I would love to get it down to 1. How do you make money by just being the guy who asks questions? I mean, I don't think this is me, but works for Charlie Rose, worked for Larry King, Piers Morgan. There's people like this who have made their living asking questions. There's obviously people who make money writing books. Something in that's me, somewhere. Sir.
What is your sense of how happy the people on your business owners council are in their lives?
There is no correlation between wealth and happiness. So I don't know if that answers it. My group is 100 people or so. I've studied in my lifetime closely about 1,100 very wealthy people, and about 3,500 middle-class households. There's no connection. Look, I mean, they're all roughly married in the same numbers. They've all roughly gone to college in the same numbers. They all have the same number of kids roughly. Their happiness level is the same roughly. There's no correlation between money and happiness.
When you and I spoke about this topic, we talked a little bit about one of the lessons about passion. And we've heard in this room a lot of people talk about following your passion. And I think you found some research that suggested otherwise. I was wondering if you could sum that up briefly in 2 minutes or less.
So there's a chapter in the book which is do what you love, but follow the money, as opposed to what our parents told us, which is do what you love and the money will follow. So really great wealth creators do what they love, but they never take their eyes off of that rung, that ladder of money I showed you, and they move up the ladder. And it doesn't matter if the stories I wrote about in the book are of people who are driven by passion. I wrote about a fine artist, Damien Hirst. I wrote about Guy Laliberté, the founder of Cirque du Soleil, who started out life as a clown. I wrote about Jay Peterman, the actor who played Jay Peterman, John O'Hurley. And these are actors. And actors are not supposed to worry, artists rather. Artists are not supposed to worry about where the money comes. They just follow their passion. They're poets in their hearts. Not those 3. Those 3 followed their passion and they never lost sight of the money. And they found ways to monetize their business all the way through. And the Peterman story, I think, is the good one because you've got 6 famous character actors came out of Seinfeld. And almost all of them have run as fast as they can away from those characters. Except for this guy, John O'Hurley, who's Jay Peterman, who has built an entire business around being Jay Peterman. So much so, he's a motivational speaker, he's written books, he's done Broadway, all in that goofy voice, Jay Peterman. He actually now is a part owner of the Jay Peterman catalog. I mean, you can't beat it. So, do what you love, but follow the money. Pretty much the sample of the middle class is just what you think. I'm that person who calls you while you're sitting down for dinner at 6 o'clock. And so the last book I did was 3,700 households. We had to make 5 million phone calls to get 3,000 people to respond. The wealthy households is different. The wealthy households we get through our relationships with financial advisors. So they send a letter to their clients. They say, would you take a phone call from these people? And we get some people who say yes. It's 2 different methods. Sir?
Do you think that the answers for the higher end were a function of their experiences, or I guess across the board, are more a function of their experiences? Or do you think if you asked all those people when they were 18 years old, if the answers would have been similar?
I just remembered I'm supposed to repeat the questions. So, are the answers a function of them being older, maybe wealthier, wiser, or were they like that when they were young? So it's an awesome question. And there's no way for me to tell for sure. but I've asked the question many, many times to these folks. And all I can tell you is that they will immediately launch into stories about how they were behaving like this when they were young and had nothing. And they'll tell me, even when I didn't have a pot to piss in, here's what I did in this negotiation situation, or here's how I made a decision. A guy I know who was a lawyer, making a lot of money, living on Long Island, is married with a kid, you know, well on the path to that whole way of life. Gives it up to become, he wants to learn how to be an entrepreneur. He says maybe car washes. He doesn't know anything from anything. Maybe I can be a car wash owner. So he starts off by becoming a car wash worker. Gives up his three-piece suit for a blue coveralls and works in the back seats cleaning up cars for a year to find out if he likes the business. His wife was not expecting this. And, you know, the marriage is under great pressure. That's a guy who had nothing and knew nothing. And obviously the easiest path would have been to be a lawyer, but he hated the law and he knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur. I hear those stories all the time. Does wealth, success, influence, and power affect your ability to commit even more deeply to those ideals? Probably. But there seems to be evidence that the best of them were doing this even when they didn't have the kind of resources they have today.
So then would you say the following? They always had a certain DNA. Whether or not they, when you look at this whole universe of people, it always existed, whether they realized it later, like that story?
So let me summarize the question. It's another awesome question that I've heard, which is, can you learn how to be an entrepreneur? Can you learn how to be business brilliant? And I think Russ Prince, who I mentioned, my research partner, doesn't think you can be. He spends time with these really mega guys, and he thinks that they are a particular breed, and you know, you are that way or you're not. I think everyone in this room and everyone that we know can be more business brilliant than they are. I do think that's true. I have coached people. If you read the book, you'll see some very specific examples of how you can actually put this stuff into practice, where even if you have a job, even if you have bought into sort of corporate America and that's your chosen path, you can go to your boss and say, you know, I've learned a lot about what I'm good at. You saw in that last project, we had a really good success because I was able to be this person. Can we consider rewriting my job description around this thing I'm best at? And then, you know, Sally and Joe are really good at what they're good at. They can help me. But instead of making me do 5 things, 3 of which I'm only okay at and 2 that I'm really good at, what if we rewrote my job description to be the thing I'm best at? I think you can coach people through that. And those are the very essence of business brilliance skills. And people can be a little better than they are. Look, there's a chapter in this book that goes on about negotiation and about asking. And one of the things I'm suggesting in the book is there's something called the gender gap in pay, and women are familiar with it, men are familiar with it. And a lot of people have said women get paid less for the same job. Well, there seems to be a tremendous amount of evidence that when given the opportunity to ask for more money, women don't. You get a job offer, $50,000, a man gets a job offer, $50,000, much more highly likely that the man is going to ask for $5,000 more than the woman. So if the man doesn't get the whole $5,000 more, maybe he gets $3,000, she doesn't ask, so she's at 50, he's at 53, that can look like a gender gap. It's actually an asking gap. So what if you read this book, or what if you spend time with these ideas, and you just go to your boss and just ask for $2,000 more a year, or 10% more, 5% more than you're currently getting? There seems to be a lot of evidence that you'll get something like that. And that's not becoming a mega billionaire, but that's making more money than you used to make, just by applying the practices that I call business brilliance. All right, guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate the time. There's my plug for the book, yeah.
Thanks. You stick it around a little bit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, that was great. How about another round of applause for Lewis? That was really awesome. Hold on. All right, so now we're going to vote with a new thing that I built on the best startup of the evening. And also, this is how you get quizzed to win a gift certificate at Dozino's, which is a local pizza place that's really awesome. So call that number. Hold on, sit down. We're almost done here. once you've called in, you don't have to listen. You just get your keypad ready, and that's how you'll play this game. We had like 140 people in here, so somebody's not calling in.
We're all working on whittling their list down.
Yeah, thinking about how to get wealthy. All right, let's get started. So, use the numbers on your keypad to answer, and the faster you answer, the more points you get. So, in what year will the number of mobile devices be greater than the human population? Again, the faster you answer, more points correctly, the more points you get. 2013, that was from Simon at IBE, who has the best New Jersey accent here. How many total travelers to New York City's 3 major airports are there a year? We're voting without even reading. Just pop up there. 105 million people. Come on. Geekrowd is not a social company built on Facebook or a platform as a service. Not built on Facebook. Apparently you're very proud of it. And most importantly, who should win tonight's Audience Choice Award and this fantastic trophy? Got a bit of a race going. I hear somebody knocking on that number, but only one vote per person. And the New Jersey Tech Meetup is better than British Royal Newborns because and we have a winner who I will call after the event, whoever this 303 number is, but congratulations. Thanks, guys. Congratulations to Sproute for winning the trophy. Good job. And we're almost done. So, first of all, if you're interested in using that product at your event, let me know, because I built it, and I'd like to see other people try to use it. So if you want to pitch this event, it's called Voices, by the way. It's getvoices.com. So if you want to pitch this event, talk to Amit. Where is he? Right here. Handsome gentleman with his hand up. He can help you present your company or work you through the process of presenting your company here as a startup. I know there are quite a few people on the wait list to do so. So first thing you should do is go to njtech.me/apply. That'll put you on that list, and then you can hound Amit about how you can get in the door. Guys, we're almost done. We're on 1 second. I know. You're eager to go. This is pretty important. A week from Friday, we're hosting an unusual event. We're hosting Tech Night at the Somerset TD Ballpark Baseball Stadium. And our speaker that night is actually the co-founder of Meetup, Scott Heiferman. And so I would really appreciate if you spread the word, and more importantly, come join us. It should be really cool. We've got the park to ourselves beforehand, where we'll actually be on the park. It should be pretty sweet. And then 5,000 people will join us afterwards. We'll watch a baseball game, and it's a fireworks night. So for $15, you get parking, like a $10 food voucher, a great talk by Scott, and baseball and fireworks. So I don't think I can do much better for you than that. So hopefully you can come. There's a train station across the street from the stadium that goes from Hoboken or New York or lots of places that New Jersey Transit goes directly to the stadium. So hopefully you guys can make it. But I do need to guarantee a minimum number. We haven't really pushed this event too hard. So if you can come, please RSVP soon so we can make sure we can hit the numbers. That said, that pretty much wraps up tonight. Thank you very much, Louis, the Star Wars, my dad who's here, and all you guys for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you at Trinity.
Hey, what's your name?
Mike Bailey.
And you're from?
New Jersey. Soon to move to Colorado.
You presented tonight?
Yes.
Geekrowd, right?
Geekrowd.
What was the experience like?
Oh, it was a great experience. I don't think I could have gone any better, and I'm gonna miss it when our company moves to Colorado.
Awesome. How long have you been coming to NJ Tech Meetup for?
For the past few months, we've been coming to them on and off in between traveling.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about the experience overall?
I think the community is great. I mean, the meetup that you had last time with all the kids presenting, that was awesome. I thought that was great, and the speakers are always awesome, so I really like it, really dig it.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Pinaki Dasgupta.
And this is your first time at NJ Tech, correct?
Absolutely, this is my first time. Yes, absolutely, first time.
And you're from Jersey?
Yes. Tenafly, New Jersey.
Excellent. So can you tell me about the experience tonight? What you thought about the community and kind of the speaker?
The speaker was great. Excellent three speeches. And, you know, and I met many of my fellow NJ Tech communities. You know, it's really a great event. Definitely met my exceeded my expectation, actually.
Great. What was the biggest takeaway from the speaker tonight?
You know, I did the leap thing. I think I like the leap. It sort of, it describes, you know, where we want to leapfrog into, you know, generation of wealth, not just, you know, doing tech for the heck of doing tech, but how do we create wealth. And I thought that the leap chronology was very good. Learn on, you know, get the assistance you need and perspire, you know, work through your failure and go towards success. I thought that was very well put forth through research. So it was great, actually. I like it.
Excellent. And will you be coming to the future NJ Tech meetups?
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So what's your name?
So my name is Rich.
Rich?
Rich and Jake. It's a very difficult last name, and it's Polish. I could spell it phonetically or actually spell it for you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
Okay, so it's JEDRZEJEK, or phonetically YENJAYEK.
That's awesome. Excellent. We're staying very diverse here at NJ Tech.
Oh, yes.
So how many NJ Tech meetups have you been to?
So I'm still waiting for my badge because I'm pretty sure I've attended like 3 years worth of NJ Tech meetups, solid. I think that says a lot about you guys. Either I don't have any other meetup friends, or I just love this, I guess.
Or it's just excellent content, right?
I think so.
Okay. So what was your biggest takeaway from tonight's speaker?
Today was a great opportunity to sort of self-examine myself as well as my partners in my business. I have a web and mobile development company in Hoboken, Plunky, Ploonky. There's no phonetic spelling to that. But we were texting during the presentation, and we examined Leap ourselves, and we were sort of examining each other during it. What are our best skills that we do? How do we apply those skills best? Persistence really hit home with us because we have failed. We were a startup that we realized, wait, what we do best is helping other people with their startups because we're much more development heavy. So it was just a great takeaway, especially in this evening. But this almost happens, I gotta say honestly, every month, is something hits us close to home, but we also learn something from the presentation. So it's just, every month is extremely worth it.
That's excellent. I mean, that's what NJ Tech is really poised to do, is give the community things to take away and apply to their startups. And it looks like it was pretty successful with that tonight.
I would say so, yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's not even just the presenters, but then you have the 3 startups. That's valuable too, because every startup I've seen for the past 3 years is at various stages, which is great. Some are just doing their first round, family and friends. Some have already gotten angel investment, and to see that progress is amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Will you be coming to the next NJ Tech meetup?
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I was actually going to offer some people a ride in our convoy to the baseball game next week. But I will definitely be coming to all future events.
Excellent. Well, that's it from NJ Tech Meetup 38. Thank you very much for watching. All right, I am here with
Danielle Newman.
Danielle Newman. Is this your first time at NJ Tech, or how often have you been attending these events?
No, this is not my first time. It's probably my 6th or 7th time, and I really enjoy it. I've been coming every month.
How did you enjoy the speaker tonight?
It was excellent. I was glued to his speech. Basically, I think wealth creation is a touchy subject that people don't want to talk about it, or don't want to think about it, but it's very true what he said.
Right. So what was the biggest takeaway from tonight's speaker that you can apply to either yourself or to your startup?
Mm-hmm. To me, it was focus. I've heard this before, and but you don't really know how to apply it. So just being reminded of focusing was very, very important.
Excellent. And what's your startup?
My startup is called FlexandFit, flexandfit.com. I'll be offering single fitness classes to consumers so they don't have to pay for gym memberships anymore, and they have flexibility to go wherever they want, whenever they want.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, I'm here with the Audience Choice winner tonight.
Jeremy Hamill with Sproute.
Sproute, tell us a little bit about Sproute.
So Sproute is a destination booking engine. We aggregate everything that a traveler might need to do at their destination and put it in one place so they have easy access. And we distribute it through hotels as a white label application.
Awesome. How does that trophy feel in your hand right now?
That feels great. It's a 2004 baseball trophy, repurposed, and it's just perfect, to be honest.
Excellent. What do you think about tonight's speaker?
I thought it was awesome. It was really engaging speech. It was something, he had a lot of interesting information that was presented well. I really enjoyed it. It was long, but I enjoyed it.
What's sort of your biggest takeaway from tonight with him, or any part of the event that you can apply to yourself or your startup as you're in this process of building your company?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the takeaway is just more of continuing to learn and continuing to engage myself in events like these and network and meet people like him. Because every time I come to one of these and meet new people, it's always a great experience, and I always end up learning things. So it wasn't one specific thing.
Awesome. Have you met a good amount of people tonight that you're going to keep in touch with that you think could help with your progress and growth?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a ton of cards, a ton of follow-ups to make tonight, and a lot of people. So it was definitely worthwhile.
Awesome, man. Carry that trophy out of here with pride.
Sure. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm here with
Krishna Moyala, co-founder of TLC Engine.
And what's TLC Engine about?
Mortgages only account for 50% of the actual cost of owning a home, and what we do is we solve for the rest of it. So whenever you take a look at, what's really interesting about our tool is it's a patent-pending technology that allows you to search for homes based on what we call true lifestyle cost. So the biggest thing that we saw when users used our tool is that they found neighborhoods that they never thought that they could afford, because one of the biggest things that we saw is that Andrew Waite from Real Trends said that, the drive till you qualify fallacy is exactly what we solve for.
Awesome. And you were recently featured in the press, right?
That's correct. So we were featured recently in Inman News, which is the third largest conference that we were at in San Francisco, and we were also featured in AOL Real Estate.
Excellent. So what do you think about tonight's meetup?
I thought it was great. I mean, this is probably my 6th or 7th meetup that I've actually gone here in NJ Tech, and I think that the great thing, what the speaker talked about is, leap. And one of the big things he talked about was creating a network, right? Try to create connections about people who you don't know, that we can make connections. I think that's what's really helped me, even to help me involve in my own business, that's helped me grow. Just being around the community to keep my persistence in keeping my business growing.
Awesome. And what do you think about the NJ Tech community? Do you think it's tight-knit? How does it differ from the other meetups that you've been to?
I mean, I think that it's growing. I mean, I think that that's the biggest thing, right? It's the what I call the power of N, right? The more people you have in the network, the more powerful the network becomes, and it actually helps you in a lot more ways. So there's a lot of stronger connections. So we've seen, the people who are the influencers always come all the time, and they actually really help in network and actually grow your business. So even if your business is not related to them, at least you've got people who will sit there and say, you need to talk to that guy. And that's what's really helped with NJ Tech in particular, comparatively to other tech meetups, right? I mean, I've gone to the New York Tech meetup, and the problem is it's gotten so big that it's become, it's become informal. And then I think that's the big difference between NJ Tech, is it's grown big enough, but you're still very small in that community.
And have you met people at NJ Tech that have been able to help you with your progress and your business and productivity?
Yes. So the answer is yes, because the reason is that I needed a couple of small tasks that I needed to get done, and I reached out to the NJ Tech community, and they were able to respond and actually help me with my own business for those particular needs.
Awesome. If you could sum up NJ Tech in one word, any word you want, what would it be?
Networking.
Thank you very much. All right, I am here with Simon of
IBE.net.
All right, can you tell us a little bit about IBE.net? You were one of the presenters tonight.
Yes, we are a cloud-based enterprise software. We were founded a couple of years ago. We launched in May, Currently we have 12 clients, and by the end of the year we're looking to up that to 50 clients and 2,000 users. So we've built the product. Now we've face the daunting task of trying to persuade people to use it. So.
Excellent. What was your experience like pitching tonight?
I thoroughly enjoyed it now, but when I was waiting to present, it's kind of nerve-wracking. I was just speaking to Aaron, and I don't know how he does it every month, get up in front of 120 people and seem completely at ease and completely normal. I know my legs were going, and I wasn't sure where to look or what to say next, but no, it was a great experience. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, you certainly didn't show nervous. I mean, you were up there, and you did a great job presenting. I mean, it was very smooth and very informative, so thank you for that, obviously. What was your, what did you think about tonight as far as the speaker that we had?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a little slow at start, and he spent a long time, maybe that was deliberately long time, to get you to think about what you were outstandingly good at. Mm-hmm. But it was very interesting statistics, and he tied it together very nicely at the end. No, it was good. It was a bit of a change up from the usual tech crowd. So.
Right. What's the biggest takeaway you got from his presentation tonight?
Focus.
And there it is. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.